Hi everyone, this is Gregg from brothersinsanity.com, bringing you our video review of the new DmC Devil May Cry video game. Now, DmC is a reboot of the PS2-born Devil May Cry franchise, brought to us by the creators of Enslaved and Heavenly Sword. Capcom has trusted one of the staples of the PS2 library, and the pretty good sequel on the PS3 and 360, to an outside yet established development studio. While many people were complaining about Dante not having white hair, I think most people like myself were more upset about the idea of Devil May Cry being rebooted so soon. I really think the series was creating an excellent universe that multiple more games could have existed within, and was not interested in starting it all over again in an all-new world. And as I said, DmC is a reboot of the Devil May Cry franchise, and the story is a fresh take on the mythos that Capcom has created. Many key names return, such as Dante, Virgil, Sparta, and Mundus, and Earth is essentially a cover for the demonic world brought upon mankind by Mundus, who you might remember being the end boss of the original Devil May Cry. And everyone is being controlled through the media and made docile by energy drinks and soft drinks. While I want to say the story is incredibly cliché, it feels more like a political statement than an original idea for a game. The Raptor News Network, which is an incredibly obvious jab at Fox News, is led by a tyrannical demon whose send-off every night is just doing God's work. While obviously in jest, it doesn't feel like a parody, but more of a low blow. Now, one thing I really like about the story was the practicality of it. I know that might sound strange when we're talking about a game with angels and demons fighting, but all the fighting in the game is done in Limbo, and Limbo is halfway between the demon world and Earth. It makes more sense that you're not just killing demons on the streets while there isn't a human being ever being spotted anywhere. Here at least it makes sense that you're on a different plane of existence than the rest of the normal world. Now obviously you play as Dante, who in the beginning is seen as someone who knows what is going on, but has no idea how to stop it and has pretty much decided just to go with it. He drinks, he smokes, and frequents strip clubs, and then Dante is recruited by the Order, who is led by his twin brother Virgil. This game does a much better job of laying a foundation for the relationship between Dante and Virgil than the previous games did, and you really feel more attached to the character this time around. Virgil then comes up with a plan on how to use Dante to defeat Mundus. Now, I always leave my reviews spoiler-free, but I will say this one thing. You get a real Professor X and Magneto vibe as you near the end of the game, and because of the backstory that they tell so well, and that was laid out so well, it means much more and it feels much more real. Now, one change I do not like to the story was the Romeo and Juliet type love story they gave to Dante's mother Eva and Sparta. One thing that makes no sense in this game is that angels are real, as one was Dante's mother. If this is true, then where is heaven, and God for that matter, to help in this fight? In the original Devil May Cry, Eva was a human, and made it seem as though there was no heaven or God per se, just a demon realm and the human realm. This leaves the absence of heaven and God making much more sense than the fact that they exist and just are nowhere to be found. Also on a side note, the offspring of angels and demons are referred to as Nephilim, and it seems to be the hot new word going around this year and last, and it's getting pretty tired and old. First Diablo 3, then Darksiders 2, and now this game. I know at this point in development it's really hard to change a core part of the story like this, but this is a theme that's almost being overused as much as vampires and zombies are. Overall, the story was very entertaining. I like the fresh take on the relationship between Virgil and Dante and where it can go from here, and I really enjoyed the idea of Limbo being a different phase of existence where you fight all these crazy enemies. My only complaint is that done properly, this really could have been a good prequel in the already established franchise. They could have made everything fit together with minor plot holes that would have been acceptable. It is Devil May Cry, not Mass Effect. And they could have continued building this incredible universe. With that being said, the story is still very enjoyable and should not be overlooked. DmC fits what fans would expect from the series, as the menus are very stylized, and they're very heavy and gritty with reds and blacks. But unfortunately, the game sacrifices a lot of the elegance from the past titles, such as the majestic buildings and the clean-cut characters, Dante's suit for instance, and focuses more on this gritty, edgy type of style. Surprisingly though, it still fits this series very well, giving the game a fresh look, but still keeping it believable as a Devil May Cry game. Ninja Theory, in my opinion, has really been mastering the art of the background, and what I mean by that is what else is happening in the environment as you play. The levels are very complex, as far as they look in the art scheme anyway, not as in level design per se. And there are always lots of things happening that are not directly involved with you. Levels vary from a twisted nightclub American Idol audition to a news station broadcasting my boss battle via a helicopter cam. Dante looks very good. Again, gritty clothes as opposed to the nice suit, and looks actually very little like the original Crack Addict that we were expecting based on the concept art that they released early on. Enemy designs are very creative, but plausible at the same time. Again, more dark and gritty than previous entries, but they fit the game theme as they should. This game does not run at 60 frames a second, and I noticed some texture issues on many of the character models. The levels and enemies looked amazing, but for some reason Dante and most of the main enemies had real issues during the cutscenes, even though they were all being done in-engine. The backstory is told through a series of flashbacks that are essentially motion comics, and remind me a lot of the original Max Payne. They look very good, and it was a creative way to visually separate the backstory from the main story. The first thing I have to say when I talk about the gameplay is that this game is incredibly easy compared to the previous games. One main part of the previous games was the insane difficulty, even on the normal setting. This game bypasses challenge for accessibility for obvious reasons of not wanting to alienate the newcomers, but will lose some of the charm and satisfaction in knowing that you took on such a challenging game. When it comes to the controls, however, DmC delivers exactly what you would expect. The combat is super fast, incredibly satisfying, combos roll off the button presses, and you feel like you have complete control over your character at all times. As much as I did enjoy the combat, I did feel the game offered too many weapons, and with the addition of angel and demon power, I was often overwhelmed by the possibilities. This reminded me of fighting games like Marvel vs. Capcom, where you'll learn a solid combo out of a possible 5 million, and use that over and over again. Now, I'm not saying that a deep combat system is bad, but I was not expecting to spend hours in a training room to pull off some of the timing in these combos. I play fighters when I want to do that, and action games in my opinion should not be quite as complex. Definitely people will enjoy it more though, and it's not a reflection of the quality of the game by any means. One thing that did strike me right away was the absence of any sort of puzzles in the game. Right before you battle Mundus, there is one puzzle to solve and that's it. And it's not really difficult, and essentially is just a time waster to extend the total gameplay time. I would have preferred some more variety in the stages, instead of kill, 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 rinse, repeat. With all that being said, the game is very fun, and Ninja Theory has once again proved that it makes quality games, and can go toe-to-toe with most developers out there in terms of quality and product. Now, besides the story mode, which is broken up into 20 separate missions, you also have a training mode, Sparta mode, which is the same game with different enemy patterns and groupings, Heaven or Hell mode, and Hell or Hell mode. These offer a greater challenge for your inner masochists, and you can upload your scores to the online leaderboards. With music by Combichrist and Noisia, the soundtrack fits the game very well, and does hold true to the techno-metal we were used to hearing in previous entries. Other action games like Castlevania Lords of Shadow, for instance, chose to go with a more orchestral score to replace the long-time soundtrack types, and I'm very glad that Devil May Cry stayed true to the type of music that it was always known for. DmC always had a harder side when it came to music, and this game keeps up that tradition successfully. The voice actors did a great job, were excellent choices to represent the characters they play, the sound effects are crisp and clear, and overall added a lot to the feel and style of the game. Of course, the ambient noise as well is subtle, but noticeable and helps build up the mystique of the new universe. When it comes to replay value, my first Devil May Cry playthrough finished with a disappointing 8.5 hour playthrough. This even includes getting stuck on the final boss that went into infinite parry mode, even when vulnerable from counterattacks, and having to restart that mission a few times. There is even what I call a stretched level near the end that is essentially a time waste level that is slow paced, usually put in place because they knew the game was shorter than they liked, and they wanted to have a little bit more playtime added on. This does, however, go along with the typical Ninja Theory games like Enslaved and Heavenly Sword that had similar playtimes. DmC does, however, have a good chunk of replay value if you are into retrying the same stage, looking for higher ranks and scores. The gameplay will not differ much, but for the old arcade gamers inside of us that want to max out a score and share it with the world, this game will keep you trying over and over. With the addition of Heaven or Hell mode, where everything hits hard but dies in one hit, and Hell or Hell mode, where everything dies in one hit, including you, there are more things to do than just the disappointingly short story mode. Bottom line, DmC is a great game. Standing on its own merits, this new take really shines, and should make believers out of almost everyone. Sure, some of the die-hard fans will be disappointed by the lack of difficulty, and the new look for Dante will keep some people from giving the game a fair chance. But overall, this game is another great game from Ninja Theory. It's a great action game in general, and a great addition to the Devil May Cry family. BrothersInSanity.com gives Devil May Cry a 9 out of 10.